Let me introduce you to one of my friends. Oh, excuse you. Oh, no, oh. You can see what my friend thinks of me. What's up, everybody? I know it's been a little while since I've given you an update on the Galant, and the reason for that is school started, and that pretty much blew any garage time out of the water. You know, if you have little kids, you know when school starts, it's just off to the races. And that's pretty much your #1 priority is after school activities and homework and, you know, shuttling your kids all over the place. So work on the Galant has slowed dramatically. But as you'll see in the video, we've got some tasks done, and later in the video, you'll see we're going for our first drive. So let's just jump right into that. Okay, I've got the timing light all hooked up. I've got the ignition timing doohickey grounded out. Let's set this timing. It's clutch bleeding time. Pretty simple. Got some synthetic brake fluid. I got this cool brake bleeding bottle. Really love this thing. Used this on the Miata and it worked great. So I'm gonna use that on the clutch. It's got this really high quality tubing that fits over the clutch bleeder outlet perfectly. Safety glasses, little 10mm wrench. Oh, and you need a helper. And I have just the right person for that job. Okay, press it down and hold it. So in the last video, you saw the little fuel filter that I've been using as a catch can, and totally inadequate and a thing of the past, honestly. But so now I'm gonna step it up a little bit. Now, if you followed Thunderbolt, you've seen me install this Moroso air oil separator, and I've been completely impressed with this thing. It works great. Easy to drain. I mean, I just couldn't be happier with it. So I got one of those for the Galant. So here's the setup that we used in the past, and now we're moving over to this. So what you see here, it's the same exact body of the one we have on Thunderbolt. Now, let me just tell you how I got this one. The one I got for Thunderbolt is a universal version, which has sort of a universal bracket and 3/8" hose. This one I got as a scratch and dent item, and it was originally made for a Mustang GT 500. But even though that's the case, this body is the same, this bracket's the same. This is a little different, but I can use that. Most of the parts are the same. What's different here is it uses 1/2" hose and these 1/2" outlets. It was a killer deal, so I couldn't pass it up. And I already have the 3/8" hose fittings that'll go in here that'll work just fine. So I'll just put this 1/2" stuff upstairs for some other future use, who knows. But I would have gotten the universal kit, but like I said, I found this on clearance as a scratch and dent, and honestly, I've looked it all over and I can't find a single scratch or dent. It looks like the box was opened, but I can't find anything at all wrong with any of the parts. It looks like they haven't ever even been opened. You can see this bracket here is you know, it's never even been opened. It looks brand new. So I wasn't sure what I would get, but extremely satisfied with this deal. And let's install it. So our first job is to decide where we're gonna put this thing. And I'm gonna put it, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of where the fuel filter is over there. Somewhere over there. So this is gonna take a little time. Things to consider when you're installing a catch can, no matter what type or brand you're using, is the first thing is you're gonna have to empty it. So you want it in a place that's serviceable, and that's really the main goal, I would say, is put it in a place that's easy to get to and easy to service, because you will have to check it and empty it from time to time. Okay, after some noodling, I cut off the ear on this Mustang bracket, pounded it flat, and I think I have a pretty good spot for it. There's these 2 bolt holes here, and I think that little guy, I'll put a couple standoffs on there, but I can go right into those 2 holes. I'll drill into that steel, and I think that's a good spot for it. Okay, I've got a good little spot for our bracket back there, but it can't mount flush to the firewall. There's too much stuff in the way. So we need something to just stand it off a little, you know, maybe like 1/2 inch or less. So something I like to use that are really readily available are these injector rail isolators that you find on a DSM. They're just spacers that space the fuel injector rail out a little bit. And you can use them like this, or you can grind these little nubs off, and they make a great isolator that's practically free. All right, there we go. That was easy. A couple of nice flat spacers. Okay, the factory bolts are obviously too short now. So now I just need to dig through my stash of bolts and find 2 bolts that are matching and long enough. Okay, here's the catch can with all the fittings in there. Got thread tape on all those. And on the bottom here, it comes with this valve. That's how you drain it. You would open the valve or close it. And then there's the little spout. Not too crazy about the oranges going on there. Maybe I'll paint those black someday. You guys know how I am. And there's the firewall mount. Definitely happy with how that came out. That's actually, it's billet aluminum, the bracket up top. And then the bracket in the back is actually stainless steel. So I'm not gonna paint that. I'm gonna leave it natural right now. I might paint it black someday. But you see I got it spaced off the firewall a little bit with those little spacers we put in there. Now let's put the air oil separator in and finish this up. There. All right, I like that. Now we can just route the hoses and that'll be it. Okay, all done. Really like how this turned out. It is kind of shiny. I could always like powder coat it black or something, but I think it looks fine. And got the lines ran nice and clean. You may have seen my video on junkyard fasteners. This is a good use. Here's those little clips, you know, where you can stand off one hose from another. And it just looks so much nicer and works so much better than zip ties. So there we go, all done. I'll let you know how it works as the miles rack up. Okay, so you've seen me set the timing. We bled the clutch. We put that Moroso catch can in place. And the only thing left to do was drive it. And I have been driving it just around town a little bit and, you know, just doing some little stuff, adjusting the clutch, travel, that kind of thing. All of that went well, no major problems. So today we're going on the first major drive, and keep your fingers crossed. Okay folks, here we are. We're out here driving. Now, I told you before that I did buzz around my neighborhood a little bit, you know, filled it up with gas, made a couple of small clutch adjustments, and hooked up ECM link and just made sure everything looked good in the data logs, all the basics. I mean, we really didn't change anything that should affect data logs, so that all looked good. So now I'm just going for my first real drive, buzzing around some country roads, and then we're gonna get on the interstate and go for a nice long drive. Nothing makes me think that we'll have any problems, but you never know. So I'm gonna be keeping a close eye on everything. Now I am very happy to report that there's no weird sounds or clunks or noises, anything like that. The car drives pretty much exactly like it did before. There's a little less of that gear gnashing sound, which I just think that was slop in the old transmission. And so that's gone, which is nice. Now you know what we're doing right now, it's my least favorite thing in the world, and any car guy hates this time. It's clutch break-in time. Clutchmasters calls for 500 miles of break-in time. You know, I don't drive this car a whole lot, so I'm trying to put it into heavier rotation so I can rack up those 500 miles a little quicker. Because I want to see what this thing will do. buzzing down the highway now, 75 miles an hour with the AC blasting. Nothing to report, nothing exciting. No weird smells, no smoke billowing out from under the hood. So I'm gonna give that a thumbs up. Now thankfully I haven't heard any weird vibrations or anything, but one thing that is getting on my nerves a little is, you know, in the fifth gear in this thing, let's see, we're at about 75 miles an hour. It's about 3,500 RPM right now. And there's a little bit of boomy resonance coming from that MagnaFlow 3-inch setup we have. So I have a little something in mind for that we can try. But until then, I would like to eliminate that. One thing I'm really happy to report is the temperature just stays rock solid right there all the time. It's in the high 80s here, pretty good humidity still, and it just doesn't even move from that point right there. So our cooling system is working great. That grocery getting life. You know, another thing I really wasn't sure about was the idle. You know, the old Talon engine we've gotten here now, it had all the lightweight bottom end stuff, you know, the knife-edged crank and the lightweight pistons and rods and all that stuff. And it seemed like in the Talon, I had to run a high idle. It's the only way I could get a decent idle without it like dropping and stuff when I came to a stop. But so far in the Galant, the idle is just rock solid. So really happy about that. There's the current backseat status there. Total kid hauler duty. It's important in life to have at least one car that you turn around and look at a couple times as you walk away. Love this old beast. Let's do this. I think it's Halloween. What are you dressing up as this year? Tell me in the comments. I've got a pretty cool costume I'm working on. More to come on that one. Very happy that this car has the cup holder option. I don't know if I ever showed you guys the stereo I put in this thing. And while I love the stock stereo and how it looks, how perfect it is in the interior, it just wasn't performing well at all. So I wanted something with Bluetooth that would sync to my phone. You know, I've driven this thing to the shootout a handful of times, and it's just a long ride and I needed my music. So I picked this up. It's actually super cheap and works great, and I think it looks fairly at home in the interior of this thing. I mean, it's kind of modern, but not too much. It kind of goes. Okay, the grocery run was a success. I've got to go pick up the kids now, and then I'll head home. But probably tomorrow, once the car cools down, I'll check everything over, make sure there's no leaks anywhere or anything unusual, and I'll let you know how that goes. Oh, I hate clutch break-in time so much. Perfectly open, good on-ramp, and I can't even get on it. Ah! Okay, no surprises under here. That's pretty good. Okay, everybody, that's all for today's video. In the next update, I've got a little fix in mind for that exhaust, a couple changes I'd like to make, and I'll show you all of that. And then I'm gonna give this thing a complete detail because there's a really cool Cars and Coffee coming up. So stay tuned for that one. And as always, thanks again, folks, and we'll see you next time.